go talk to funeral home directors. They were the first group who understood the implications of the weight column in America. They were. Not because folks were dying fast. They had to order larger caskets. Funeral home directors told me, they said, "Oh, man, we had to go and order supersized caskets." They understand that. And so we're sitting here talking about how do we treat all these people, how do we cover everyone, and the reason, one of the significant reasons, our healthcare costs are rising because our health is worse. It's worse. And so if we want to have a direct impact on healthcare in America, we've got to deal with unhealthy people. We've got to sit here and say, look, you've got to sit here and say, especially, like, I don't get me in this whole issue going to the doctor. I read a letter on Tom Jones last week, and Tom Jones said, "Well, y'all heard me going, get Detroit a big hug, so there you go." That's insane. I read a letter from a woman I worked with at Chicago Defense, and her dad, she talked about prostate cancer, she talked about the heart issues he had, how he took his wife to the doctor every 6 months for 30-some-odd years, and he did not go to the doctor since 1972. He had a physical for his job in 1972. Took his wife, but would never go. And she talked about the pain of that, how she had to sit here and take care of him and take care of, basically ignore her children. He's dying, he's in pain. And I read this emotional letter, all the stuff that she had to endure because her dad was hard-headed. And I keep making the connection to men. Why do we put our families through that? See, we are sitting here making our selfish decisions, saying, "I'm grown, I do what I want to do." But when we stroke out, mama, sister, brother, uncle, they've got to change their whole life to deal with us because we're now incapacitated. And that is happening every single day. So I believe beyond just hospitals, beyond healthcare professionals, we've got to have communities who are absolutely focused on saying, look, I'm not worried about right now how much high blood pressure drug will cost and how you can't pay your prescriptions. Let's lower your blood pressure so we don't have to have the conversation. So it's amazing. We don't want it. It's amazing. We don't like to actually do that. I can tell you how many places I've been where I've seen people sit here and they're saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm in prescription drugs. It costs me so much. I have to wait. And then I'm watching their children who are on the road being diabetic. And I'm going, we might want to have a conversation and change what's happening there. We might want to confront the reality that we have enormous neighborhoods of people who have spending capital, and you have grocery stores that absolutely refuse to build in those areas. Which is a direct result of you can't get fresh fruits, you can't get vegetables. You can find a vegetable restaurant within throwing a rock, but this is throwing a rock for the community. The issue of healthcare reform is not a hospital issue. It's not a nursing home issue. It's not this small area. It's not these massive areas we're talking about. The issue of healthcare in this country is a holistic issue that has to deal with systems, that has to deal with individuals, that has to deal with communities, that has to deal with families. And as long as we sit here and say, Congress, that's their job, the president's job, the hospital's job, elected official's job, then we will always lose this battle. And that's one of the reasons why I sit here and understand when it comes to the issue. I don't play. My dad had an issue. They had a cataract a whole year, barely could see, wouldn't go to the doctor. So I told my radio producer, I said, call my dad and put him on hold, but don't tell him we're on the radio. True story. He came back from break. I said, pull up call one, pull him up. I said, Dad, how you doing? I said, hey, son. I said, schedule your appointment. He's like, I said, yeah, for cataracts. Yeah, I said it. When did you say it? I said, oh, by the way, you're on the radio right now. Everybody in Chicago is listening to you right now. So you can lie to me right now. And I had to sit here and bust out my dad. Because I said, and then of course when he asked me when he got a check and the cataract in the other eye, I had both of them taken care of, he had no problem. But again, I couldn't sit here as his son and make excuses and then get mad at the doctor for catching it late. And then say, Doc, why didn't you see it? Well, why didn't you come to me when you were in pain? The woman who I was talking about, that's exactly what happened. The doctor said, you can't even for your dad. He died last Thursday. He said, we can do nothing for your dad. Because he was in constant pain and would not go to the doctor. And so if we're going to confront this whole issue of healthcare reform, I believe individuals in various communities have got to raise their game and say, we are going to take this personally. And so you talked about Jeffrey Canada in here last year. And I've always believed in their model because I saw it growing up. And so how do we do this? Somebody sitting here saying right now, hey man, that's great, that's wonderful, I hear what you're saying. I think you got to do what they actually do. That is, they say we're going to take this community back block by block. One of the fatal mistakes that we make in this country, we have mass meetings. And you know what they say, let's get together, we can achieve consensus, let's get all the stakeholders, we can all agree. That's a waste of time. I'm telling you right now, that's a waste of time. That's not how I roll. One, you're not going to get everybody to agree. Two, I don't feel like having another meeting. I don't. So, if there's one thing you should take away that I use it all the time. This is one of the reasons when Tavis Smiley had his event in Chicago, they were complaining about black leadership and president. I said, I'm not wasting my time going to another one of those gatherings. Because exactly what I said. I'm tired of me talking and dispersing. I believe in me mobilize that. And so the real question that has to be, if we're sitting here recognizing what is going to happen with healthcare reform, and we're recognizing the political fights, the question then becomes, what's the community back? What is going to be the community action plan? All of a sudden, lead folks to lead healthier lives. All of a sudden, we're not going to have all those costs on the back end. Now, somebody's sitting here saying, okay, I hear you, but Detroit's a huge city, and we need other folks in the room. Let me go back when I mentioned Montgomery. I've used this example before. Understand this. There are more people sitting in this room. There are more people sitting on the first 3 rows than who were sitting in that basement where they decided to launch that program. More people in the first 3 rows. They said, we are going to deal with this one particular issue just where we are for one day. And they begin to build out from there. And so when you go to Israel, when you go to Palestine, talk to folks, Palestinians, when you go to South Africa, when you go to Poland, when you talk about people who are in the stockyards, when you go to all these places around the world, and they're sitting here singing, we should all come, lift their voice and sing, because they recognize what a small group of folks in the church basement did to change the entire system. And so, for you can sit here and say, wait a minute, we don't need to actually have another mass meeting to lead the change in healthcare in this city. If you focus on block by block, if you begin to say, we are going to make this one block a healthier block, we're going to make the folks on this block get treated, know if they're HIV positive or negative, know who has high blood pressure, know who has heart disease, know who is healthy, who's exercising, who's not. Then we're going to the second block, and then the third block. That's how Jeffrey Canada was successful with the Harlem Children's Zone. And what has been the net effect? So 20 years later, you now all of a sudden are seeing Harlem Children's Zone being replicated all across America. Why? Because one guy in Harlem said, let's take our community back block by block. Recognize what the politicians are doing. Recognize that they are fighting the political battle. But the real battle for healthcare reform is really taking place by each one of you sitting in your seats. And so ask yourself, while you're fighting healthcare, whether you're concerned about the cost or not, how many of you, when was the last time you actually checked for relatives? when it came to that health. Be honest with yourself. When is the last time you challenged somebody and said, we need to deal with your obesity? You're my sister, you're my aunt, you're my uncle, you're my mama, you're my daddy, I love you, but I can't sit here and be quiet. Talk about health care for the nation, and I got a health care crisis sitting right in front of us. When we take health care that personal, then I think you'll see real health care reform in America.